Mereside area of Blackpool is a large council estate that was built in the 1950s. There was a Church of England church on the estate called St Wilfrid's, and the decision was taken last year for that church congregation to close down. But the diocese decided to keep its presence on the estate by putting a pioneer ministry post onto it. I very strongly felt from the beginning that the first thing that we wanted to do was to actually establish a church congregation again. It was little conversations, like I got talking to my next door neighbour over the wall, and she had found out that I was a priest and said that she really wished that she could go to church, but the nearest one was too far away and she didn't have any transport. So I said, well, we're starting services in my living room, would you like to come? And she said most certainly she would. Our first service was on Pentecost, the birthday of the church, and we had a really lovely time for our first service. And then in the months since then, it has grown gradually by when we encounter people on the estate, talking to them about what we're doing and inviting them to come along to the service. So we now have a congregation of about 8, and it seems to be growing well.
Do you think that I have come to bring peace to the earth?
We had careers advisors in school, and they made us fill out this 200 question questionnaire to help us decide what our future careers might be, to help us make the right choices for subjects for exams. And rather surprisingly, mine came back number 1 choice, church leader. I was rather surprised at this, but I went and spoke to my vicar, and he said, well, I've been waiting for you to come and talk to me about this because I've been expecting it. And that was very affirming for me as a 15-year-old. And it was something that I then continued with and continued exploring. In the meantime, I had met and married a lovely young soldier called Pete. And again, this idea of ministry came back to me. Pete was getting ready to leave the army, and he said to me, what do you want to be your career, because you've still got a whole lifetime of career left? And I said, actually, serving in church in ordained ministry has always been there at the back of my mind, and it's something I wanted to explore again. I didn't hear any audible voice from God, but sometimes you just get a feeling that this is what I'm meant to be doing. So I kept pushing doors, and they kept opening, and it just kept leading me to where I am now. And God has made it an easy path for me, albeit a rather long one, because of a wait that I went through between my teens and my 30s. But with each step down this journey, it just feels that God's timing is on all of it, because I feel that the priest I am now is not the priest I would have been had I gone through this calling in my teens. One of the things that I realised quite early on in this ministry is that God had specifically called me, Linda, to come and be on the Mereside estate. So I had to look at myself and see what gifts and experiences I had that I was bringing specifically to this ministry. I love singing, and I thought it would be great to start a community choir here on Mereside, to do it specifically as a gospel choir where people are singing Christian songs, but it's open to anybody. You don't have to be a Christian to come to it. We have a God slot, if you want to call it, towards the end where we just sit for a couple of minutes and reflect on what we have been singing, about the lyrics and what they actually mean, and any meanings that it might have in our lives. And I've been told by the people who come to it that they really appreciate this time to sit and reflect in what can be sometimes a very busy world.
On the edge of the Mereside estate there's a very large field, and every week during out the summer there is a car boot sale there. Hundreds of stalls and thousands of people every week. We felt that if they were not at church on a Sunday morning, maybe we could take church to them. So we had an idea of setting up a prayer tent at the car boot sale, where we could offer a space that is quiet, a space where people can come and reflect, and a space where people can come and light a candle for in memory of somebody or for healing. And we've been blown away by just how well that's taken off. Each week 40 to 60 people come into the tent. We're just excited about where God's going to take us with that next. We're looking at different angles where we can reach out to people there. One of the things that we're keen to do is to get to know the regular stall holders at the car boot sale, with a view of possibly offering something for them in the future. I mean, wouldn't it be great if we could end up having a service of communion or a short service at the car boot sale, it would be amazing. I've always known that there was something there for me as well. It wasn't just about supporting Linda in ministry. And I think through my experience of leadership, I knew that there was going to be something to do with leadership for me in the church in the future. It was during the Crossroads mission to Sheffield where I was part of the Blackburn team, sharing my experience of becoming a Christian, talking at men's breakfasts and various different other events, that this call was kind of sealed within me. I had a conversation with Bishop Philip, who asked me if I'd explored something like church army ministry. I hadn't heard much about church army, but I explored that further and what it was to be a church army evangelist. Had a look at their website. I spoke to another church army evangelist in Blackpool, and it to me just made sense that this was not ordained ministry, but maybe it was lay ministry leadership that I was being called to. I went for an interview, passed selection panel, and I'm looking forward to starting my training with them in the very near future.